Hi there, I'm Tommy Larkin. Now, every superhero has his nemesis. Superman has Lex Luthor, Batman the Joker, and G.I. Joe has Cobra, which he tells me is a real pain in his back. Welcome back, and thank you for joining me today. Like the tweak on Shalabhasana, we are looking at the actions of backbends, specifically Bhujangasana, which is Cobra Pose. First, let's demystify Cobra Pose. The essence of the pose is to lift the upper portion of the body like a snake does, specifically a cobra when it's flaring its hood. This is different from upward-facing dog, mainly because one is a dog and the other is a snake. But actually the difference between the two is with cobra, the hips and legs remain on the ground, while in upward-facing dog, the hips and legs are suspended between the shoulders and the feet. Now, because the hips are rooted on the ground in Cobra, it can make the pose feel very challenging. In addition, it can effectively and potentially be a deeper back bend than even upward-facing dog. So we can understand this with more ease. Here's a picture of Cobra versus upward-facing dog. Notice the position of the hips in upward-facing dog. Because they are free to hang between the fulcrum of the shoulders and the feet, we can get away with less of a back bend due to the limitations in flexibility and required strength in our back and overall torso. However, with Cobra, the restriction created by the floor can amplify our lack of flexibility and or strength to lift the chest. As a result, many people, including myself, find that uncomfortable and sometimes get a painful pinch in the lower back, generally right behind the region of the belly button. Now, even though you can have the same type of discomfort in upward-facing dog, the free hips tend to reduce these instances. Whereas in Cobra, the press from the arms can overpower this lack of flexibility and create adverse bending in our lower back. So today is really about understanding how to extend the lower back efficiently to be more effective in keeping the vertebral discs in a neutral alignment with their corresponding vertebrae. Before we get into the depth of the instructions, let me say one thing of importance. It does not matter how high you can lift into Cobra. Although having the arms straight is the eventual destination of the pose, it is not an aspect which enhances or detracts from the essence of the pose. So here on my left, I am demonstrating what my Cobra looked like over 20 years ago. On the right is what my Cobra looks like today. Beyond height in the posture, the biggest difference is in the length in the torso and spine I am able to create as a result of the actions I am sharing today. Over the years, I have heard all sorts of instructions for making Cobra and upward-facing dog supposedly easier and less compressive on the lower back. One of those is to feel like you are pulling your head and upper back away from your feet while stretching the legs away from the hips. Now, this helps, and you may find that it is a great example and the best thing for you. However, what I have found is it does not take into consideration the work needed to support the lower back in a natural bending position. As you may know, the lumbar portion of the spine, those 5 vertebrae above the pelvis, are in a natural back bending position. So if you get that pinch in the lower back, then simply stretching the torso and then lifting the chest really does nothing of benefit. This is because if you already adversely bend in the lower back, you're just adding a length which does not counter the bend you continue to replicate. I've also heard, keep the belly strong, but I can tell you it always came with the instruction to stretch the torso, which simply either reduces the amount of bend you can do or actually kind of fights back against the opening in the chest and therefore goes back to what we would call the weak point in the posture, i.e. your lower back and that pinch. So as I go on and on and on and on with that, what you really need to know in back bends is about opening the thoracic spine. Those are the vertebrae between the top of the shoulders and just behind the navel. There are 12 of them and they naturally curve opposite to the lumbar spine, meaning when you round your back, you're creating a deeper curve of the thoracic spine. So understanding how to keep the lumbar spine in a stable and more neutral position plus minimize additional curve, allows us to move the work of the posture into the upper back. This in turn, and with time, starts to free up the upper torso and our back bends grow deeper. So here we go. First, we will set the action in Sphinx pose. I find this position, which mimics Cobra, provides a place we can feel the actions without overly stressing to lift the chest. So come to lying on your belly with the elbows under your shoulders and chest lifted. This is Sphinx pose. Integrate the vital lines of energy in the legs. So feel the inner legs move towards the feet. And from the soles of the feet, feel the outer legs draw back towards the hips. With intention, press the tops of the feet onto the floor so the knees lift slightly, or at least have that feeling of coming off of the floor. Now again, reconnect with the inner leg action. That's inner legs to the feet. And as you feel the outer legs draw back towards the hips, feel the muscles of the inner thighs contract. Now those are the adductors. You should feel the inner thighs draw towards the tailbone and rotate away from the floor. Now maintaining the leg actions, feel the hip points. Those are the two bones on the front of your pelvis. Draw towards each other. You do this by contracting the abdominal muscles below the navel. Those are the ones that we would call in the sacral plexus. And you should feel the back of the hips broaden. Now the lower back is stabilized. So push the forearms into the floor and contract the shoulder blades towards each other while stretching the front of the upper belly and chest towards the chin. So now let's do the actual work of Cobra. Now we do it using the hands to help elevate the chest and the torso. So without losing the work in the legs and lower belly, lower down so you can bring the hands underneath the line of the shoulders. Fingers pointing out the front of your mat. Now it's Cobra for itself. Feel the inner legs move towards the feet. Press the tops of the feet into the floor so the knees feel light or lifted. And from the soles of the feet, draw the outer legs back towards the hips, allowing the inner thighs to contract and rotate towards the ceiling. This rotation will help you draw the hip points towards each other and engage the lower belly. Right? Now, as you exhale, press the hands into the floor and draw the shoulder blades towards each other, allowing the chest to puff open and the upper belly and ribs to stretch. Now, two notes as we hold here for a couple of breaths. You may feel the buttocks engage. Do your best to keep the gluteus maximus relaxed. The gluteus medius helps keep the internal rotation of the legs. Second, relax the tops of the shoulders away from the ears. This will provide more capacity to open the chest and deepen the back bend in the thoracic spine region. On the next exhale, lower down to the floor. Now, don't worry how high you can rise up. As I started integrating these actions into my Cobra, upward facing dog, and other back bends, the natural progression of practice helped build more flexibility and the strength needed to support deeper bends in the back. This allowed in Cobra my arms to straighten more as I practiced. So as you can see, there are still elements of stretching the head away from the feet and keeping the belly strong. However, it's in how we integrate these actions and understanding within our bodies how the actions support the length needed and that the solar plexus region of the abdominals needs to remain more relaxed and pliable so it can move with the curve and not fight against it. So there you go. I hope you gained great benefit from today's work. If you have any questions about this tweak or any previous one, let me know. Put your question in the comments of the specific tweak and I'll get back to you. Also, if you like today's tweak, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Plus, check out the website and follow us on social media for other inspiration and great ways to increase your optimal vitality. You'll find those links in the description below. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. And until next time, have an amazing week and Be excellent to each other.